Assassin's Creed is synonymous with many things: the hidden blade, the parkour, the conspicuous outfit that somehow makes you invisible in the crowd. But there's another thing that not many people immediately think of when they hear Assassins, and it's the eagle. And that's interesting because the eagle has always been the symbol of the Assassins. Before the Creed, Cassandra had already been able to see through her eagle's eyes, and this ability passed on to Bayek. And for some reason, Eivor knows how to do it too, until the later generations decided that going around with a bird was a bit much, and since then it's just become eagle vision. Obviously, if you started playing before the RPG Assassin's Creed came out, then you had no idea they even used an eagle that way. But I believe that's where the Assassins got their ability from. And it's an inherent part of the Assassins. And when you first started playing, you no doubt relied on it often, until some of us eventually do not. Let me clarify before we go on. I'm not trying to categorize players or define what makes a good Assassin's Creed player, because let's face it, it's a single-player game and there are no good or bad ways to play as long as you finish it. And for the most part, Assassin's Creed games are generally easy, even when played at the highest difficulty, except for maybe Origins. But there are two types of players: those who play for the story and immersion and maybe learn a thing or two about history. And then there are the optimized players. These guys play for the combat experience. They like to test out new builds and trying different approaches to a mission, or just clearing bases and committing the most artistic murders. Some bases and missions are harder than others and will take many tries, and these players will keep at it until they get the cleanest run. And in doing so, they'll start to learn the pattern of the enemies, and eagle vision would become unnecessary at that point. So I guess we can call these players good, because they spend more hours perfecting their strategies rather than just playing the story once or twice. This habit of memorizing enemy patterns also carries over to other Assassin's Creed games. If you're a good player moving on from one AC game to another, you'd unlikely feel the need to use eagle vision in that game, even if it's a game you haven't played. That's because, unfortunately, no matter how new or innovative an AC game is, enemies have always behaved in the same way: static, predictable, and dumb. But this isn't the only thing that stays the same across the Assassin's Creed franchise. Structural designs and enemy placement haven't changed much over the years either. This is especially true in the RPG trilogy, where there are a lot of fortresses and encampments that you need to sneak in and kill a target. And even though there's a variety of them, you always see the enemies standing in predictable locations. There's usually a guy in each tower, a few of them chilling along the top of the wall, and they literally just stand there in one place like sitting ducks. Inside the base, you'll often find a group of them hanging around a campfire or anything flammable like an oil jar. So if you're at a corner and you can't see anyone but you see an oil jar, just throw a smoke bomb at it and you'll surely hit someone. The older AC games have more of a variety when it comes to base invasion, and there are a few missions that would actually compel you to use eagle vision on your first time. But the problem is the enemies are extremely terrible at detecting you, so it kinda evens out. Assassin's Creed Unity may be the only exception here, because the stealth difficulty in that game is just something else. I stopped using eagle vision since AC3 and haven't used it again, but I still turn it on occasionally when I go back to Unity. Another reason good players don't use eagle vision is how fast they can react to getting caught. If you know exactly what to do the second the enemies detected you, then you were never caught at all. Most players would probably just start wailing on them with their sword, which is fine, but good players don't like getting caught. I mean, I guess it depends on their goal as well. Some players don't like to engage in combat when they're sneaking around, and some just don't want to be seen altogether. In the older Assassin's Creed games, it can be a bit tough to deal with this, since you only have a split second to decide what to do. But in the RPG games, you have a larger window before the enemy starts attacking you and calling his friends. Especially in Odyssey, you have an ability that slows down time for 6 seconds at max level. So getting caught is almost a non-issue in that game. I think I might remove Odyssey from this conversation entirely, because Cassandra is just broken in every way, and most people tend to power through the entire story. So yeah, there is stealth in that game though, if you choose to do it. And the last reason is knowing when to use which tool or ability, and this is an extension on the previous thing I mentioned. In the old AC games, this is easier to do, since you only have a limited number of viable tools for most situations, and the smoke bomb being the most versatile of them all. This item alone eliminates the need for eagle vision in any game except Origins. But if you're not using smoke bombs, the bow and arrow or throwing knife can get the job done as well. The pistol can also help you taking out several enemies before they get to you. It can also serve as a noisemaker to attract more enemies to your location. In some of the older AC games, starting from Black Flag, I believe, there is a quick use button that will auto-select the target for you. New players may not be aware of this and would start aiming with the right mouse button instead, and that usually leads to full-on combat. Unfortunately, Ubisoft removed this feature for some reason, even for Mirage. So if you've played all the Assassin's Creed games, do you find yourself using Eagle Vision in Mirage? For me, I used it only once during a story mission when the game told me to. Because the problem with Mirage is not only it has the stale and repetitive structural designs and enemy placement of the newer games, the enemies are just as dumb and blind as the older games. On top of that, your tools are insanely powerful in Mirage. The smoke bomb not only heals you, but it kills your enemies as well. You can basically clear an entire base with just that. So, if you want to play the game without the need to press V every 10 seconds, you can start going back to the old games like Unity, and start to get used to sneaking around and remembering where the enemies are located. Another thing you can do is try playing without HUD, or the interface. Most players may think having all the tool buttons on screen helps, but for me, in most cases, they're just really distracting. Sure, you'll have to remember which tool or ability is bound to which key, but that's very easy to do. So that's all I have. I just want you to know that this is not a rant. I just wish we had more reasons to use Eagle Vision in the future games like Assassin's Creed Red and Hex. I really hope Ubisoft could find a way to, incentivize using this ability. I don't know, maybe make the bases more challenging or the enemies smarter. They could add other effects to Eagle Vision, like, let's say, revealing a weak spot of an otherwise invulnerable enemy. Like there will be super elites that cannot be assassinated or killed in combat unless you attack them at a particular spot or something like that. And Eagle Vision will reveal that spot to you, and it's different every time. Or whatever. But yeah, that's about it. Thanks for watching.
I must be on my way.